7 Spine-chilling cemetery horrors in Appalachia exposed. Discover the eerie tales of the forgotten. Sarah felt the weight of Black Hollow as she stepped into the mist-soaked morning, where fresh memories tangling with ghostly whispers clutched at her heart. Reborn memories from her childhood danced with the mists curling around the Blue Ridge Mountains, urging her to remember the stories tucked away like treasures long forgotten. Each twist in the road leading into town felt like unlocking a door to the eerie mysteries hidden beneath the old roots of her family's past. Her first week back as the new teacher had already begun unveiling spine-tingling tales, and now, she was drawn to the graveyard, a place she remembered as a child to be both beautiful and terrifying, where tombstones whispered secrets from beyond the grave. As she meandered past sagging oaks and moss-covered stones, a chill crept up her spine, electrifying every nerve in her body. The cemetery, once an innocent playground of likes and laughter for kids, now radiated a warning, each crooked gravestone a marker of stories tied to unimaginable tragedies. She could almost hear the hushed tones of the townspeople cautioning, "Never speak of the past. The old soul is always watching." Haunted glances welcomed Sarah as she stumbled across an old, crumbling mausoleum, half buried in vines, as if the earth itself wanted to bury its secrets deeper still. Her hands trembled as she reached for a dusty, faded book nestled inside, filled with cryptic warnings. Words like restless spirits and ancient curses clawed at her imagination, pulling her deeper into its web. The townspeople had tried to move on, but she could sense their dread lingering in the shadows, clinging to the air like the scent of impending rain on an otherwise clear day. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, Sarah, Dave, and her childhood friend Melissa gathered around the kitchen table, the air heavy with mingled curiosity and fear. They exchanged local legends like trading cards, tainted love stories, a noose that swayed from the oak, a child lost to the dark, each carving out nervous laughter until doubt seeped in, silencing their mirth. There was talk of the old soul, a being said to dwell within the very soil they walked, a force that had siphoned happiness from the townspeople for generations. Days wore on, and the town grew uneasy. Once jubilant faces turned cold, shortening their smiles and exchanging furtive glances. Tension twisted deeper, wrapping around Sarah like a vice, squeezing away her resolve. Frightened whispers echoed through the streets, every shadow flickered with the unsettling possibility of ancient wrath looming just beyond the stories they kept locked away. Was she igniting a fire she could no longer control? At the town hall meeting, surrounded by familiar faces now twisted in fear, Sarah felt the blood rush to her head. Would they denounce her for uncovering the past, or would they rise together against a shared terror? Just as she poured her heart into an impassioned plea for reclamation, an unearthly howl tore through the air, echoing off weathered brick, chilling every heart in the room. Lights began to flicker, resolve wavering, and the tears of the past coiled around Sarah's resolve. As panic began to unfold, she was met with one inescapable question: how far must one go to uncover the darkness dwelling in the heart of one's own home? Sarah's heart hammered in her chest, each beat a frantic reminder that she was standing at the edge of something terrible. The howl seemed to rise from the very ground beneath her, a feral cry that echoed the unrelenting despair woven into the town's fabric. Shadows danced wildly in the flickering light, faces contorting into expressions of horror as the mood shifted into chaos. Melissa's grip tightened on Sarah's arm, her eyes wide and fearful, each breath quickening, each heartbeat echoing the dread that permeated the air. "Stay calm," Sarah shouted over the rising din. "We need to figure out what just happened." But even her words felt hollow as the reality of their situation sank in. Was it the old soul? Had it finally awakened from its slumber to claim its due? Dave stood at the window, peering through the glass as a gust rattled the wooden frames. "Look!" he yelled, pointing. Outside, a thick mist rolled in, more sinister than any fog they'd known. It swirled and twisted, creeping toward the town hall as if alive, beckoning for the fearful residents to step outside and face the unknown. "Get back!" someone shouted, but it was too late. The door burst open, and the mist flowed inside like a dark wave, smothering every flash of light and drowning the room in a thick, eerie gloom. Candles flickered and failed, plunging their world into near darkness, save for the rush of cold air that clawed at them like icy fingers. "Sarah!" Melissa screamed, her voice swallowed by the eerie atmosphere. Fear reflected in her eyes, thick as the fog enveloping the gathering. With hurried desperation, Sarah took her friend's hand, pulling her close while the others flailed in confusion. They had to escape the town hall, had to face the creeping terror before it consumed them whole. "Everyone out! Move!" Sarah shouted, trying to cut through the chaos. With Dave at her side, they led a stumbling line of terrified townsfolk toward the exit, their breaths coming fast and loud, panic awakening in each of them. Just as they burst through the door, a sudden silence enveloped them, foreign and almost otherworldly. Outside, the cemetery loomed like a dark sentinel, shrouded in swirling fog. The mist clung to the gravestones, weaving between the rusted iron gates and ancient oaks, as if guarding secrets that yearned to be unearthed. Sarah's heart twisted at the sight. This was the place where the old soul was said to dwell, where stories begged to be told but warned against revealing their truths. They stumbled toward the old mausoleum, the one that had pulled at her all day. It stood ominously in the distance, the shadows of its cracked stones draping over them like a shroud. With each step, Sarah's chest tightened. This was the heart of the town's dread, where history collided with their present. "Are we really doing this?" Dave asked, glancing back as if expecting the mist to pursue them. "We have to," Sarah replied, determination hardening her voice. "If we're ever going to be free from this curse, we have to know the truth." But the graveyard was silent, too silent for comfort, only the sound of their footsteps mingling with an oppressive quiet. Just as they approached the mausoleum, an ear-splitting crack rang through the air, followed by the ground itself shuddering beneath them, a warning of the unraveling truths hidden beneath their feet. "The old soul is watching," Melissa whispered, a tremor in her voice. "Or it's trying to tell us something," Sarah breathed. As they reached out to touch the cold stone, the ground trembled once more, and an unearthly light split the darkness, revealing something that lay hidden. They were not just uncovering a history, they were invoking a reality too haunting to imagine. In that moment, Sarah realized, the past was not merely something to be revealed, it was alive, and it would not be buried any longer. What awaited them from within the shadows? Just how deep did the darkness run? The light flickered and pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing their eyes toward the mausoleum as if it were a magnet. Sarah could barely breathe, each gasp sharp with fear. Beside her, Melissa squeezed her hand tighter, knuckles white against the inky darkness enveloping them. Is that light coming from inside?" Dave stammered, his voice barely breaking through the silent tension. "Yes," Sarah answered, her breath shaky. "It has to mean something." She took a tentative step forward, the mist swirling around her ankles, adding weight to each step. The others followed, their eyes wide, hearts racing, unsure if they were stepping toward salvation or doom. As they reached the mausoleum, the ghostly glow glared brighter, revealing carvings on its ancient stone facade. Figures danced across the surface, etched with a precision that spoke of long-forgotten rituals. A chill raced down Sarah's spine as she read the words, "To awaken the old soul, one must confront their darkest fears." "Great, just what we need," Dave muttered. A horror movie quote etched in stone. How is that supposed to help us? Maybe it means we have to face whatever's inside. Melissa suggested, her voice a whisper. The fear in her eyes reflected Sarah's own dread, yet curiosity pulled them forward. What if we don't? Dave crossed his arms, biting his lip. Then we'll let this curse claim us, like everyone before us, Sarah replied, anger igniting in her chest. I'm not going to let fear win. The words rang in the air, heavy with determination. They stepped closer, ready to push open the heavy stone door, but it creaked open ahead of them, an invitation laced with a threat. The light inside pulsed violently, bathing their faces in a ghostly illumination. Shadows writhed against the walls, whispering secrets long buried. "What's in there?" Melissa breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Only one way to find out." They entered together, the cold air rushing to meet them, wrapping around them like a shroud. The walls closed in, and just like that, they were inside, locked in with whatever horrors lurked within. The chamber was filled with dust and dread. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like nightmares caught in a web. A sarcophagus lay in the center, its lid slightly ajar, revealing a darkness that engulfed their every thought. "Do we open it?" Dave asked, his voice trembling. Sarah nodded, heart racing. They leaned together, gripping the edges of the lid, breathing steady despite the swell of fear rising in their chests. As they pushed it open, a wave of energy surged forth, dark and heavy. A gust of wind howled through the chamber, sending chills down their spines. The shadows flickered, forming shapes, faces twisted in agony, laughing in mockery. Then, a voice heavy with age broke the silence. "Who dares disturb my slumber?" All three of them jumped back, Melissa's scream cutting through the stillness. Sarah's heart sank as reality collided with the tale they tried to escape. They weren't just confronting the old soul, they were facing its wrath, and it was alive, hungry for recognition and revenge. "I was imprisoned for eons, and now you awaken me," the voice intoned, echoing like thunder. The shadows grew thicker, swirling around them, dark tendrils reaching out. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the very walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own. "We didn't mean to. We only wanted," Sarah shouted, desperation flooding her tone. But the voice was relentless. "To know the truth, you must embrace your fears." Suddenly, visions swirled around them, pictures of their past, moments of guilt, pain etched into their souls. They gasped, horror dawning upon them. This was more than they bargained for. As fear knotted in Sarah's guts, she grasped Melissa's hand tightly. "We can't let it take us." "No." Dave stepped forward, defiance igniting his spirit. "We'll fight it together." But was it too late? The shadows around them pulsed with hunger, eager to reclaim what belonged to them. With their truths laid bare, the question loomed: could they confront their darkest fears and emerge unscathed, or would they become one with the cursed tales of their town? As Sarah felt the weight of the darkness press against her, she knew that the struggle was just beginning. Yet, deep within, a spark of hope flickered amidst that infernal dread. They had come this far, they had to uncover the ancient truth, no matter the cost, but as the entity's presence loomed ever closer, Sarah's thoughts turned again. What lay at the heart of the old soul's wrath? What unspeakable secrets would they be forced to confront next? The chamber shuddered, the ancient stones groaning as if the very mausoleum resented their presence. Sarah's heart raced, each thud echoing in sync with the pulsing light. The entity's laughter boomed around them, filling every corner with a malicious joy. "Fear is delicious," it roared, the shadows curling around them like serpents. "Stick together," Dave shouted, his voice strained yet steady. He glanced at Sarah and Melissa, anxious uncertainty flickering in his eyes. They clung to one another, forming a tight ring against the encroaching dark. "Embrace your fears." The entity's voice shifted, mutating into a multitude of whispers that danced mockingly in their ears. Familiar words from their past echoed back: doubts, regrets, failures. Each blast felt like a physical blow. Sarah struggled not to crumble under the weight of her memories. A vision erupted before them. Sarah saw herself standing on the school stage, her voice cracking during a solo performance at a long-ago talent show. The laughter of her peers twisted into an iron grip around her throat, choking her with humiliation. "I shouldn't have tried. I shouldn't have." She gasped, fighting against the pull of the shadows that threatened to claim her. "Let it consume you," the voice taunted, shaping the shadows into distorted figures of her friends, their faces twisted in mockery. "No. Melissa shouted, lashing out as if to shatter the memory. Her face contorted in fear and anger, she squeezed Sarah's hand tighter. Suddenly, Melissa was thrust into her own nightmare. Flashes of a darkened car, rain pounding against the windshield, a shattering crash. Her heart raced as she grappled with the memories of the friends lost that fateful night. I couldn't save them. Face it. The voice commanded. You brought them here. You let them die. No. Melissa collapsed to her knees, horror swimming in her eyes. Sarah felt a wave of despair wash over her friend, rippling through their circle like a shockwave of pain. But buried beneath that, a faint flicker persisted. Sarah knew they had to turn this tide. Melissa! She screamed, forcing the words out through the abyss that threatened to swallow them whole. Don't let it win. Remember you loved them. You were there for them. Melissa blinked through her tears, the remembrance cutting through the thick fog of despair. Sarah felt the warmth of defiance ignite in her friend's heart as the laughter around them faded, if only for a moment. Dave, eyes bright with resolve, took a step forward. We can't let it define us. We face our fears together. His voice was a lifeline, grounding them as he drew strength from them, power surging through the fear. With renewed hope, they clasped hands tightly, willing themselves to confront the entity, to rise up against the darkness that suffocated them. Show us the truth. Sarah's voice rang out, a battle cry against the gloom. We aren't afraid. The shadows recoiled as their unity pushed back against the overwhelming dread. But in response, the entity roared, sending a blast of darkness spiraling toward them, the air thickening, thick as molasses. With a collective breath, they prepared themselves for what was to come. Let us show this old soul who we really are. Dave shouted, face alight with determination, his voice cutting through the rising storm. And just like that, moments spun into chaos as the entity fought back, knowing they were more than mere prey. But as the darkness pressed in, a glimmer of light caught Sarah's eye, pulsing differently from the shadows. It beckoned her forward, something purely radiant in its promise. Could that light hold the key to freeing them from the old soul's grasp? What other horrors awaited when they followed it? The darkness enveloped them like a suffocating blanket, thick and oppressive. Sarah felt her breath quicken, urgency clawing at her every heartbeat. Follow the light. She urged, pointing toward the flicker that seemed to dance just beyond their reach. Dave shared a determined glance with Melissa. We can't hesitate. We have to move. With that, they broke their circle, hands still intertwined, making their way toward the radiant glimmer that pierced through the shadows like a beacon. As they stepped deeper into the unknown, the shadows seemed to wail, anguished voices rising around them. The laughter of the entity twisted more sinister. You think light will save you? You will only walk into your doom. It hissed, the echo reverberating off the stony walls. The trio pushed onward, their feet heavy but resolute. The air felt charged with static, a low hum pulsating through their chests. Each step toward the light ignited flickers of hope but also dredged up more terrifying memories. Sarah faltered slightly as another vision rushed towards her, the last time her father stormed out after a fight, the door slamming behind him, leaving only silence and regret in its wake. Stay with us. Melissa pleaded, her voice strained yet filled with her newfound strength. Just as Sarah grasped the full implications of her fear, the light grew nearer, almost tangible. It illuminated the tunnel around them from the stone walls glistening with moisture to their own determined faces, stricken but defiant. Yet when they reached out toward it, an unexpected tremor shook the ground underfoot. Foolish souls! The entity thundered, its voice like a ferocious storm. You cannot escape me so easily. Dave kept moving, ignore it. It's just smoke. But as they approached the glimmer, the ground erupted in jagged fissures. They stumbled back, fear coursing through them as the shadows swirled angrily, clawing at their ankles, dragging at their resolve. No! Sarah cried, fighting against the pull of despair. We have to believe. Melissa squeezed her hand harder, anchoring them in the moment. We're stronger together. She shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. The light flickered again, teasingly, bolstering their spirits. As they steadied themselves, the shadows hissed and shrank back momentarily, unnerved by their unity. It was then Sarah realized, this flicker of light was more than just an escape route. It felt warm, inviting, like a place where lost souls could find solace. A place where they could confront their past not as victims, but as warriors. Feel the love. Sarah shouted suddenly, her heart pounding with newfound conviction, the memories breathing life into her spirit. Use it. It's what we have. The shadows screeched, recoiling from their words like a wild animal backed into a corner. You dare defy me? The entity roared, rage fueled by their defiance. Yes. Melissa shouted back, the pain of her past fueling her voice. You don't own us. The shadows, fueled by fear and history, began to form into grotesque faces, twisted and angry. But their strength faltered against the trio's united front. With every shout, with every step they took toward the glimmer, they glowed brighter, transforming the oppressive darkness. But just as they reached the edge of the light, the ground trembled again, more violently this time, and all at once, an unholy roar filled the chamber, shaking the walls and threatening to collapse the very structure around them. Face the truth, or face your end. The entity shrieked, its voice splitting the air like thunder. In that chaos, Sarah glimpsed a figure in the light, hazy yet familiar. It was a face lost in time, a figure she thought she would never see again. Sarah. It called softly, a voice woven with both love and urgency. Her heart tightened, a rush of emotions flooding in questions and fears and unresolved longings. Who are you? She screamed over the cacophony, a mix of dread and recognition swelling within her. The flickering light pulsed, promising secrets and revelations. The air grew thick with tension, teetering. On a knife's edge, what if the truth she sought was not just about the entity? What if it was about herself? And then a sudden realization hit her, the answers they needed were not in fleeing the darkness, but by confronting it. Would they be able to face everything that had shaped them? The ground shook one last time, and the light dimmed, leaving them teetering on the brink, the path ahead obscured by uncertainty. Would they dare leap into their past, together, to emerge stronger? The air cracked with tension as the light wavered, flickering like a dying flame, creating a surreal dance of light and shadow. Sarah's heart thudded loudly in her chest, each beat louder than the echo of the entity's furious voice. She desperately focused on the hazy figure in the glow. If it was someone from her past, someone she loved, then she had to press forward. Sarah. Come to me. The voice was insistent, almost pleading. It tugged at her, pulling her brain in different directions: the past, the regrets, the what-ifs. Wait. Dave's grip tightened on her shoulder, his expression a mixture of determination and dread. We need to be careful. What if it's a trick? No. Sarah shook her head fiercely. It's not. I know them. I can feel it. Beside her, Melissa's face was pale, her brows knitted in uncertainty. But what if that light is just another manifestation of this thing? We can't risk everything. Not again. The shadows roared back to life, swirling like a tempest around them. Faces contorted into chaotic masks of despair, clawing at the edges of their sanity. They howled in protest, echoing the greatest fears of their souls: the missed opportunities, the losses, the regrets. Let go of the past. The entity spat, fury erupting from the shadows. It holds you captive. You belong to me. No. Sarah bellowed, her voice cutting through the noise. I don't belong to you. I'll face whatever this is. She stepped toward the glowing light, an instinct driving her forward, a call she couldn't ignore. Suddenly, the ground beneath them split widely, a violent chasm opening up, like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. Dave lost his balance, and Melissa grabbed his arm just in time, pulling him back as darkness yawned ominously below. Sarah, please. Dave shouted, fear gripping his voice. This isn't just about you. We have to stick together. But she was already moving forward, compelled by the figure who, she realized now, was her mother. The woman she had lost years ago, her face painted with warmth and sorrow. I need you, Sarah, you have to trust me. Heart racing, she glanced back at her friends, torn between loyalty and the burning need to know. I can feel her, guys. I swear I have to do this. They hesitated, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. The air grew heavier, thick with anticipation. Sarah, I know it's hard, Melissa said, her voice wavering. But the entity is using her to lure you in. It preys on your emotions. With the entity's laughter screeching in the background, the shadows lunged at Sarah, tendrils reaching out as if to pull her back. Face it. The entity taunted. The truth of your past will destroy you. You cannot outrun it. But Sarah straightened, a surge of strength igniting within. No. I won't be afraid anymore. The shadows recoiled slightly at her defiance, but the figure of her mother grew more pronounced, shimmering with affection and light. Come, Sarah. Remember our love, it's stronger than this darkness. With a deep breath, Sarah took another step closer, her body humming with power. The light swelled, wrapping around her like a warm embrace. Yet just as she reached for it, the earth trembled more violently. The cries around her intensified, drowning out everything but the frantic beating of her heart. Don't trust it, Sarah. Dave's voice warped in the chaos. I can't. I can't let go. She cried out, teetering between two worlds, hope and fear. As she reached the ground, exploded with a blinding flash of light. Then silence engulfed them, and Sarah found herself suspended in a void, a familiar figure standing before her, the past laid bare in agony and beauty. Will you embrace the truth? A voice whispered, echoing faintly but unmistakably, but what truth lay ahead, and would it be more terrifying than the darkness they faced? In that moment, Sarah realized the scariest thing wasn't just the shadows or the entity. It was the haunting reality of what they would uncover next. Would they survive the revelation, or would it consume them whole? Sarah blinked against the harsh light, disoriented but undeterred. The void shimmered around her, the weight of the past pulling at her very essence. She was alone. The chaos of her friends, the ominous roars of the entity, faded into nothingness. Her surroundings felt like a dream, surreal and overstimulated. Her heart raced as the figure before her remained still, unmistakable. Mom. The word escaped her lips barely above a whisper, each syllable hauntingly sweet. The figure was indistinct, yet she felt every emotion wrapped in the contours of that familiar face: love, loss, regret. Sarah, her mother's voice resonated, gentle yet firm. You need to show them your strength. They need you. But I don't understand. The frustration bubbled up inside her like a poison. Why now? Why this? I thought I had let you go. Tears pricked at her eyes, blurring the outline of the figure. You cannot run from what you lost, her mother answered, swirling in the nostalgia of it all. Confront it. You were never meant to forget. With every word, the shadows stirred, creeping closer, ready to envelop her once again. The sensation of cold fingers trailing along her spine sent a shiver of fear coursing through her. She realized it was not just the entity that threatened her, it was the memories she had buried deep inside and the regrets she needed to face. Suddenly, the comforting warmth of her mother's presence began to fade. I don't want to lose you again. Sarah cried out, desperation spilling over into her voice. You won't lose me, her mother said, the glow softening. But you must let me go. You need to fight back. Show them who you are. The shadows behind her writhed in response, their whispers flooding her ears with overwhelming dread. You are guilty, they hissed. You failed them, just like you failed us. Sarah's breath hitched. She grappled with 1,000 memories, moments frozen in time tainted with regret. I did my best. She yelled into the void, the cavernous emptiness swallowing her words. I can't take it back. Reject their lies. Her mother's voice cut through the shadow's cold grip. Proclaim your truth. You are not defined by your failures. In that moment, clarity washed over her. She felt the pulse of her own strength surging through her like fire. The memories had clawed at her for too long. It was time to confront them, once and for all. With fierce determination, Sarah stepped forward, her entire being focused. The light that surrounded her mother flickered but remained resolute. I am not afraid. I will not let you control me. As those words erupted from her, the shadows shrieked, retreating as if burned. The figure of her mother solidified, imbued with a new strength. That's it, Sarah. Reveal your truth. The air crackled, and with each breath, she pulled together pieces of her past, not as a burden but as a shield. The howls of the entity grew softer, the chaos of her friends returning to her thoughts like a lifeline. But just as hope ignited, the ground trembled anew. Sarah. Dave's voice shattered the stillness, distant but familiar. We're still here. Don't forget us. We believe in you. She felt tethered to their energy, rallied by their unwavering presence. But then, in a split second, the shadows obliterated her resolve, tightening their grasp, twisting realities. You think you can escape? The entity rumbled, a taunting whisper in the dark. No. Sarah shouted, her voice ringing out louder than the shadow's doubts, louder than the entity's fury. I am alive. I choose my own path. With that proclamation, a fierce light erupted from her heart, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. The blinding brilliance blinded her. But in the moment before the light enveloped her, a low rumble of laughter echoed ominously, leaving her breathless. When she opened her eyes again, she was no longer alone. Standing before her, cloaked in the shadows, were figures from her past friends, family, and those she had wronged. One by one, their eyes turned towards her, waiting, demanding. Will you confront them? The entity's voice mocked, slithering through her defenses. The clock was ticking. Would she summon the courage to face the very ghosts that haunted her? Or would the darkness silence her before she could even begin? Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as she stood before the specters of her past. Each face was etched in pain, disappointment glimmering in their eyes. Shadows wrapped around her, thick and suffocating. This darkness was not just an enemy, it was a mirror reflecting all she tried to bury: decisions made, words unspoken, joys extinguished. Why are you here? She stammered, voice trembling like a leaf caught in a storm. I thought you were gone. We never left. Sarah, her childhood friend, Emily, stepped forward, her expression a mix of anger and longing. You drove us away. You shut us out. No, Sarah gasped, shaking her head. I was trying to protect you. It was for your own good. The shadows twitched as a chorus of whispers rose from the figures surrounding her. You failed to protect us. You should have fought harder. You are the reason we fell. Each phrase shot through her like icy daggers. Panic clawing at her throat, Sarah struggled to push back against the tide of accusation. No. You don't understand. I was scared. I didn't know you didn't know what. Dave's voice emerged from the darkness, his expression softening slightly. That fear leads to failure. Or that love can sometimes weigh heavier than regret. Their words wrapped around her like chains, but within her, a fire ignited. I've hurt you all, but I've learned. I've grown. I can't change what happened, but I can acknowledge it. I can make it right. The shadows recoiled distantly, but the entity loomed larger. Make it right? It roared, laughter echoing off the walls of her psyche. You really believe you can rewrite your past? You are weak, just like all of them. Stop. Sarah shouted, the sound resonating, shaking the void. I am not weak. Her words slashed through the dark, making the shadows hiss. The figures around her were silent now, watching. They didn't come for her in anger. They waited, as if holding their breath, believing that deep down she could summon the strength. "Tell us what you see, Sarah." Emily beckoned, wanting her to unveil the truth that lay hidden beneath the layers of shame. "What do you keep running from?" Sarah swayed, caught between courage and despair. She closed her eyes, a flood of memories washing over her, moments of laughter, tears, and the stark horror of loss. What haunted her most were the faces of those she could have saved. The possibilities she had allowed to slip away. "I see," her voice trembled. "I see how much I wanted to be strong. How I thought pushing you away would keep you safe." The light within her flared brighter, warmth enveloping her. It pushed against the dark weight that clung like a shroud. The shadows writhed, their forms flickering, as though momentarily losing grip on her. "Good," her mother's voice rang clear, reverberating with strength. "Face it. Face them. They are part of you, and so is the courage to step forward." With newfound resolve, Sarah opened her eyes. "I am not my mistakes. I am not my regrets." She called out, voice steady. "I will fight for you. With you. I will not let this darkness win." The ground shook violently beneath her, and the entity snarled, infuriated. "You think you can rise against me? You are nothing. A fading memory. Then I will become more than a memory." Sarah declared, her heart pounding like a drum signaling battle, gathering every ounce of her spirit. "I will become the light that chases you away." A blinding brilliance erupted around her, stretching out toward the specters. As the shadows attempted to grasp her, they sizzled and shrieked, their form deteriorating against her radiant resolve, but just as the golden light surged higher, a familiar figure stepped forth from the darkness, one she had not expected. A face twisted in anger, eyes dark with betrayal. "You really think you can face me, Sarah?" It was someone she had wronged, someone she thought she'd left behind. Her breath caught, the confrontation she feared most had just stepped into the light. Could she truly face this ghost? Would she stand on the edge of her illusion, surrounded not only by ghosts of the past but the very wounds she had inflicted? As the light pulsed around them, one question hung ominously in the air. Would Sarah find the strength to confront not only her failures but also the shattered trust that still lingered in the dark? Sarah, the voice was low and haunting, echoing through the cavern of shadows. It felt like a blade grazing her skin, reminding her of wounds that had never fully healed. The figure that emerged from the dark was Max, her first love, eyes blazing with anguish. "How can you be here?" she whispered, shaking. Her heart clenched painfully, the light around her flickering as uncertainty clawed at her core. "I thought you were gone. Gone. You think I could ever leave?" He took a step forward, his expression a twisted mask of hurt and anger. "You forced me out. You buried me under the weight of your guilt and fear." Her stomach twisted. The memories surged, their laughter, the summer nights filled with dreams, and then the silence, the shattering silence when she let fear drive them apart. "I thought I was doing what was best." She sputtered, feeling each word suffocate her. "Best?" Max's voice cut through the air like a sharpened knife. "You sacrificed us. You thought shutting me out made you brave, but it only proved your cowardice." A burst of anger surged within her, a desperate need to justify her actions. "I was terrified, Max. I didn't know how to save us." Max stepped closer, and the shadows warped, swirling around him like a storm. "And yet here I stand, in this hell of your making. This darkness isn't just around us, it's inside you. You're still running away, aren't you?" Sarah could feel the pulse of truth in his words. The darkness whispered cruelly, feeding off her self-doubt. She clenched her fists, determination rising. "No more. I want to let you haunt me. I choose to face you." At that moment, the ground beneath her quivered, and the shadows darkened, smothering the light as if afraid of what Sarah might unleash. You think you can silence me? The entity snarled, stretching its monstrous limbs, tightening around her like an iron grip, seeking to crush her newfound resolve. You are nothing. Sarah shouted, heart racing. I am more than my mistakes, I want to let you control me. Foolish girl, the entity replied, its voice a murmur of chaos, you think you alone can conquer your past. You have to reckon with the pain you've caused. Its dark form shifted, conjuring twisted images of her failures, the moments she turned away when she could have reached out. Each scene broke over her like waves of ice-cold water, sinking deep. Remember that night, Sarah? Max's voice weighed heavily, filled with unspoken memories. How you pushed me away instead of fighting to keep me. You let me drown in my sorrow, and now you think you can undo it? She shook her head, desperate for clarity but held captive by the weight of her regrets. What I'm feeling, it's real. But I am still here. And so are you. Max's eyes softened, shadows within flickering as if wavering. Maybe you can be forgiven, he faltered, but what about the others? Can you really face them? The ones you left behind? The ones who never had a chance? The shadows erupted with laughter, the entity writhing in glee. See? They'll never forgive you, not after what you've done. Breath hitching, Sarah felt the power of those words. Panic bubbled, and tears stung her eyes. No, before she could finish, the shadows surged, swarming toward her. The figures of her past loomed, faces twisted in pain and sorrow, eyes accusing. Each one echoed their resentment through the darkness swirling around her. Look who returns. They cried out, an unholy chorus putting her bravery to the test. Will you fight for us, Sarah? Or will you retreat into that darkness once again? With pulse pounding in her ears, Sarah faced the maelstrom of doubt and regret. This was the moment, to rise or to crumble under the weight of her choices. Could she confront her darkest fears, not just for herself, but to reclaim the souls she had lost? The shadows thickened, closing in. Sarah lifted her chin, summoning the courage deep within. I will not let you win. I will show you the truth. As she spoke those words, a blinding light began to pierce through the encroaching dark. Was it her resolve breaking through, or something more? Just as the light began to envelop her, a whisper brushed against her ear. You can't hide from them, Sarah. They're coming for you. A chill shot down her spine as dread seeped into her bones. What had she awakened? The answer loomed in the shadows, and suddenly, Sarah was faced with a new kind of terror. Would she be able to meet whatever darkness awaited her, or had she unleashed more than she could handle? The light glowed brighter, filling the mausoleum's interior with an almost blinding warmth. It pulsed, steadying Sarah's trembling heart but also illuminating the shadows suffocating her. As the stifling presence of the entity pressed in, she knew this was a moment that could change everything or destroy them all. I won't fall for your tricks. She shouted, her voice cutting through the oppressive darkness. With that, something shifted. The shadows recoiled, hissing like a wounded animal. A flicker of doubt crossed the entity's features, if it could be said to have a face at all. You believe you can stand against me? I am fear, and you are nothing. It roared, striking the ground with a force that shook the very stones around them, but as the shadows writhed, Sarah felt a surge of support from her friends. Together, she urged, reaching for their hands, their connections forming a tether of courage. We can face this. We are more than the past, Melissa shouted, determination radiating from her. We carry the memories of those we lost, not as anchors, but as fuel. Dave nodded, his eyes filled with fierce defiance. Yes. This darkness can't chain us. We choose how we move forward. Yes, together, Sarah echoed, fueled by the warmth blooming in her chest. The light burrowed deeper into her spirit, intertwining with their collective strength, pulsing rhythmically. As they linked hands, vibrant energy surged between them, pushing back the encroaching shadows that howled in protest. The creepy whispers slithered around them, but doubt began to melt away. You think you can simply cast me out? The entity screeched, its tone a mixture of fury and desperation. But there was something in its voice, a fear of what they might unleash. I will face the truth, no matter how painful. Sarah declared, stepping forward into the sphere of radiance forming around them. I want to let you control my memories. We will rise. As she took a step forward, memories swept through them, illuminating their shared pain and laughter. Each face that flickered before her was a reminder, a testament to the connections forged in joy and sorrow. A mix of hope and acceptance washed over her. Your time is over. She roared, unleashing the pent-up energy swirling within, a declaration that resonated with the history carried in her heart. The ground roared loudly in response, a quake of power paralyzed the shadows, forcing them to recoil. No. You cannot. You will, but the entity faltered, the light thrumming with an intensity that sent shockwaves through the darkness. Watch us take back what is ours. Melissa and Dave shouted, their voices crashing against the shadows. The entity writhed as if the light exposed its very essence. Together. They cried, stepping forward, channeling their resolve into the brilliance. Brightness surged forward, spreading warmth and courage, slicing through the cold fabric of despair. No. The entity roared, but the shadows encountered an impenetrable wall of light, disintegrating as they clashed. With one last desperate howl, the darkness shattered into countless fragments which sparkled like scattered stars before being swallowed by the awakening dawn. A profound silence enveloped them, the overwhelming weight lifted. They stood among the remnants of the stone chamber, gasping, breathless. In that moment of victory, the ghostly aura surrounding Sarah's mother faded gently, a smile radiating warmth. You did it, sweetie. You changed the story. Sarah's heart swelled with both sorrow and elation. The specters around them were softening, revealing expressions not of blame but acceptance. Her past would always be part of her, but it no longer consumed her. Together, they had reclaimed their power. As the sunlight crept in through the cracks, illuminating the cold stone around them, the three of them emerged from the chamber, a mixture of fear and relief swirling like leaves in the crisp autumn air. They stepped into the cemetery where the shadows had once loomed large. In the distance, the townspeople began to emerge, cautiously, eyes wide with hope. Whispers spread like wildfire, a transformative energy sparked. Those once held captive by fear felt a ripple as they found new courage in the collective battle fought. Sarah looked at her friends, their faces illuminated by newfound purpose. We did it, she said softly, pride swelling in her chest. Now, we help them understand. Together. With a faint smile, Melissa squeezed Sarah's hand, grounding her. It's time to unearth more of the truth, share the stories, and heal. As the sunlight streamed in, illuminating the once darkened graveyard, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling lighter. There would still be challenges ahead, but with ink still wet on the shared pages of the intertwined lives, she felt an invigorating sense of freedom, and it all began with a single choice. As they walked back toward the town hall, hand in hand, shadows gathered not as menacing spirits of the past, but as stepping stones tripping them toward futures built not on fear, but love. This was more than a journey of the past, it was a reclamation of their lives. Now, it's time for you to dive deeper into your own stories and face your fears. If you loved this gripping conclusion, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss amazing tales like these. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and let your voice be heard. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What did you think of their fight against the darkness? And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this story. Together, we can uncover more truths and venture into untold stories.